everyone, and welcome to a very special video where today I'm going to give you my impressions of my first 100 hours of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I've never done one of these before in this big of kind of setting, and I know everyone's playing the game. We all have a lot of thoughts, so I thought I would go ahead and give my brain dump to all of you, unfiltered. It's going to be weird. It's going to be good. It's probably going to suck, but just a quick shout out to our sponsor today, Street Fighter Duel. Thank you to Crunchyroll Games for making us a partner. You're going to hear more about Street Fighter Duel later on in the video. With that said, let's begin. So just as a quick disclaimer, I have not gotten very far into the story. I've only done one of the proper dungeons to have a special skill. Outside of that, I've done the opening moments, and I've done one or two of the main quests outside of the tutorial, so I can have access to items that you need, like the paraglider, so on and so forth. So outside of that, spoilers will be kind of minimal, but my gameplay might reflect some kind of weapon or item that you may or may not have yet. So if that's the case, again, minor spoilers as far as mechanics go, very, very minor spoilers with regards to story. So starting out, let me tell you what I wanted from Tears of the Kingdom. I love Majora's Mask, as many of you Zelda fans do with me, and I thought this could be the Majora's Mask of Breath of the Wild. Immediately, I was proven wrong. I think we all were, in that this is literally a true sequel to Breath of the Wild. This feels like Breath of the Wild 2, but the 2 isn't necessarily a bad thing or just a repetition. It's an expanded thing. They put a lot of thought into this game and all the mechanics and the world building that's been placed around this specific version of Link, Zelda, and Ganon. From the opening moments, we have this obvious Metroid effect where Link loses all of his hearts and endurance. He even loses his arm. And within that time, obviously the Master Sword gets destroyed and mutilated. And we have this really sick, cool, imprisoned version of Ganon, like on a pike. It's all kind of graphic, to be honest. But seeing Ganon come to life and kind of just wake up and do this really evil thing of attacking Link and Zelda was just really cool to see. It was a great way to get the adrenaline going for the story, to make the player character invested. Right out the gate, we are kind of thrown back into this sky loftian area where we are in the skies, these sky islands, and we learn about the first king of Hyrule, who wasn't really Hylian. He was like an alien kind of god character, and it's kind of revealed that at least to my understanding, I could be getting this wrong, and this is why when we do completionist videos, there's a lot more research and double and triple and quadruple fact checking for me, because I'm an idiot sometimes. He's kind of revealed to be like not only the first king of Hyrule, but the fact that like this species of god being essentially formed relationships with humans, or the humans of Hyrule, whatever you want to call them, the Hylians. And then you have now, that's the reason why Zelda's ears are pointy, because these gods have pointy ears, and Link's pointy ears. And I think it's interesting that we have this god race that's kind of communicated with the Hylians. Hylians? I'm ruining it at this point. Hylians, Hylians, Heidi-ho. They have this relationship, and I think it's really interesting. And immediately, Link loses his arm, and he gets the arm of the king, the arm of the first king of Hyrule. And that's what a majority of the mechanics are all about when you're playing Tears of the Kingdom. It is literally about using that hand to manipulate all of the atmosphere around you. Now, you could do that with Breath of the Wild and the Sheikah Slate, but this is a different vibe, different power-ups, different mechanics altogether. We no longer have the ability to use bombs in that kind of unlimited capacity. We now have the ability to use this Ultra Hand, which allows us to not only move things and pick up things and rotate them, but allows us to stick them together. And that's why you're seeing everyone on Twitter freak out about that dude who has a fire penis, and you see people burning Koroks. It's led to a lot of creativity. I didn't think that we'd be on the same page from dude with the fire dong and a bunch of plants being burned, but here we are, baby. Tears of the Kingdom. Now, I do want to say, I think the opening tutorial area in Tears of the Kingdom is a bit weak compared to Breath of the Wild, just because the game kind of assumes that you've played Breath of the Wild, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But like all Zeldas, this will be someone's first Zelda, and to assume that they've played Breath of the Wild might be a bit advantageous. So new people coming into this are going to be a little frustrated at how lack of handholdy it is compared to the kind of open world but narrow approach they took with Breath of the Wild. After you kind of solve the opening tutorial area in Breath of the Wild, you got the paraglider, and you were able to redeem your points at the prayer statue right away to get more health or your endurance. And so immediately out the gate, you kind of had this idea of what the concepts were and how it all worked. Tears of the Kingdom does that still, but in a very different way. It feels a lot slower. Maybe that's just me, but I felt like I was on the tutorial up in the Sky Islands for quite some time. Even at that, when you're done with the tutorial, you don't get the paraglider this time around. You actually have to push the story a little bit further once you're down in the main area to get that paraglider. And I'll be honest, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this, I didn't even think about that, because once I got to the open Hyrule Field area, I just started walking, and I just started going places. I found shrines, I found Koroks again, I just did my thing, and then I realized as I was jumping off of ledges and stuff, oh, I don't have the paraglider, so I probably should go back and get the paraglider, and so I did. I'm a man that can admit their faults and mistakes when it comes to games, and this is one that I was pretty not fond of, but that was on me. I have been a diehard fan of the Street Fighter franchise for as long as I can remember, for decades at this point of my life. Everything about this franchise is phenomenal. The music, the setting, the characters, the entire prowess of fighting games at large is all amazing because of Street Fighter. The Street Fighter hype is at an all-time high right now, and I don't think I need to tell you that, but I can't get enough of it. So, I'm stoked to be telling you about Street Fighter Duel, a new way to experience Street Fighter. You can download this game right now on your mobile phones. In Street Fighter Duel, Capcom pulls deep from the nostalgia well, taking classic designs and art from the 80s and 90s into a modern game. This is the first time Street Fighter has entered the RPG genre proper, making Duel the first true RPG in the Street Fighter space. Seeing these fighters support each other as a team to overcome obstacles is phenomenal. You can use iconic specials and attacks, but in a totally new context. If you ever wanted to see Ryu and Ken fighting side by side to take down teams of enemies, this game is for you. Battles feel quick and satisfying and provide that signature rush of adrenaline that Street Fighter is known for. Now, I'm used to one-on-one battles in fighting games, so it's kind of been a blast to create a team of 4 and have them interact in entirely new ways. You can play an original story in the single-player mode featuring your favorite fighters, or you can hook up with friends online and play Street Fighter Duel cooperatively or competitively. Street Fighter Duel keeps the spirit of the franchise alive because there's always a new challenger waiting, someone stronger to conquer. To take your skills to the next level, you'll have to take the fight worldwide. Street Fighter Duel is constantly evolving and being updated. Download Street Fighter Duel right now using the link in the box down below. And hey, if you want to keep up with how the devs are continuing to support this new take on Street Fighter, follow them along on their socials, also linked down below. Thank you again to Crunchyroll Games for making me a partner in this. Now, let's get back to Zelda. So let's get back to the mechanics with the Purapura slate or tablet and the Ultra Hand, mechanic of the king, if you will, the hand of the king. This time around, you have the Ultra Hand, which allows you to grab pieces of wood, stone, even Koroks. You can really pick up anything and glue them together to make stuff. You can make a pirate ship if you want, or a little boat. You can make an airship with fans. This really lets you kind of create whatever you think is the correct vehicle for your needs. And the nice thing is that, kind of technically speaking, no vehicle is wrong as long as it helps you solve puzzles and move around. So while one person can go ahead and, get a piece of stone with 4 wheels and move it like a ship, others can literally grab fans and attach it to a big flying base and suddenly you're lifting off the ground on this platform. Or if you want to get weird, you can put rockets on a bunch of stuff and just take off. It's really allowing everyone to just creatively come up with their own ways to solve puzzles, to traverse, and sometimes even battle enemies. The next big mechanic that everyone obviously knows about, but is kind of important to know, is fuse. So you can take any of your swords, your shields, even items that you have for your, like fruits and vegetables and stone, and fuse them with bow and arrows, with your swords, with your shields. And at first, I was a little nervous about this because I felt like every time I ran into a new item, like a stone or a block or a piece of wood, I had to fuse it right away. You eventually learn that all of those items are all over the place, so you can just constantly fuse, and that kind of helps with the durability / damage issue that you kind of would encounter in Breath of the Wild. I still find myself, however, constantly worried about the durability of all my items, and that kind of bums me out to a degree. I would have loved if there was a weaponsmith or a blacksmith that would repair any of the items in my inventory for a hefty fee, right? Like, I'd pay $500 to make sure none of my stuff broke, right? This time around, you're still kind of used to the idea of you're gonna find new weapons, they're gonna break, don't worry about them. But I do worry about them. I do worry about keeping my shields looking pristine and having, a good fusion spear or sword for a boss encounter. The next mechanic that's really cool that I really like is Ascend. It's essentially a teleportation method for Link to go from the ground through the ceiling. I always liked it. It's really cool. It's fascinating. It kind of like tilts your perspective up, and you look at the grid and you see if it's red or green being good, red being bad, and you just teleport through. And honestly, if you know how to fuse some items together, you can full on skip puzzles just by creating items with flat surfaces, putting them up on certain areas, and just get over walls and mechanics and just say bye-bye to solving puzzles if you know how to do it, because then you just ascend from the bottom. I've done that a few times with some of the Korok seeds, where I have to get a Korok to a certain ledge or a platform, and I was like, what if I just build a weird apparatus that lets me ascend through it while also carrying the Korok along the way? And it again, freedom of expression is kind of the key component when it comes to Tears of the Kingdom. Next up is the rewind mechanic, which I'm not exactly sure how useful it is for me personally. This is one of those things where it seems very purposeful for certain puzzles and shrines, and I think that's great. I have personally found it great to skip puzzles or to manipulate some of the more egregious terrain with regards to like lava, or if I want enough height for building a flying contraption. Essentially, you can use this thing to slow down time and reverse time so that you can recall an item or a Korok or a structure you've built in its movement to pull it back to you. And depending on your atmosphere, you can do that time and time and time again to further the necessity to progress. So a common thing that you'll find yourself doing is if you're in a shrine and you look at a chest that's way too high and there's nothing to ascend to, you can literally get a piece of wood, lift it up, drop it, use the reverse time, get on the wood, it'll lift you up, and then you jump to where the platform is. So it's a lot of cool little moments that just lead the player to just figure out whatever the hell they want. And I think that's really special. Something that I didn't know I really needed until Tears of the Kingdom. Because now if I go back and play Breath of the Wild, I don't think I'd be the most stoked about not having those items now. So I got very easily distracted amongst my journey, and I couldn't really tell you how it all went or why, but I can tell you my thought process of how things kind of transpired. So once I got my paraglider, I tried my best to gather as much information about how I'm going to beat Tears of the Kingdom. Because beating the game, as it was the first time around for Breath of the Wild, is probably pretty short if you're trying to speedrun the game. I've seen people beat it pretty quickly in a couple of hours. The speedrun right now I think is 95 minutes to 100 minutes, things of that nature. And that's all great and dandy, and I love that. But I'm not the speedrunning guy, I'm the completionist guy. I have to complete the game and get everything. And there is a lot in this game. A lot of new items, The old ones rear their ugly heads back in, and there's even more of them too, and you all know what I'm talking about. Per data mining / people doing it, yes, the Korok seeds are back, and this time there's 1,000 of them, and they are spread amongst the 3 layers of Tears of the Kingdom's maps. So there's the base map of Tears of the Kingdom, which is the exact same map as Breath of the Wild. Then you have the Sky Islands. Every time you activate a tower, you get a lay of the land, you see the map. There are now islands for you to solve puzzles, deal with shrines, find Koroks. There's a lot more to do this time around that requires you to really pay attention to how things are right in front of you. And again, there's multiple ways to solve the puzzles, which is nice, but you're not necessarily beholden to just doing it one way. And at the end of the day, it's all about what you want to do, freedom of expression. So what I want to do is get the boring parts over sooner rather than later so I can enjoy the rest of the game. And that sounds like I'm complaining, but in actuality, I am complaining. There is a lot of stuff to do in this game, and I want to optimize my time because I predict it's going to take me personally no less than 500 hours to complete this game. And I think that's being generous for myself. Last time when I completed Breath of the Wild, I had this game a month before everyone else. So I didn't have guides. I just kind of went on my own journey. This time around, I didn't get a code early, and so now I'm with everyone learning and experiencing things on the fly. The Korok puzzles this time around, in my opinion, are much more fascinating, much more fun. Some classics return, such as, finding the little floaty thing in the grass, climbing a certain height, lifting up a rock, putting down a rock on certain rock formations. But now there's even more interesting approaches to it. You can now ascend through a Korok leaf pattern, and that'll get you a Korok. It was fun at first, but I got sick of it, was reuniting the 2 Korok friends. So there are Koroks that are like one's on the other side of the river, and you have to take one Korok and get him across the river to the other Korok, and you have to build a contraption that can get through the water and do it successfully. And that's really rad. You get 2 Koroks, so it's kind of worth it. Definitely fun, but it gets kind of old considering that if you're not very good at fusing things together, you're going to hate the amount of time that it takes to do this. Obviously, shrines are back, and there's about 150 of them. I think there's more. There might be like 155, 158. Checking now. Live fact checking in the video. How many shrines are in Tears of the Kingdom?
152.
152 shrines versus 120 before. So we're looking at an additional 32 shrines, which honestly isn't that bad. But I will say, and I don't know if it's just me, and maybe you guys in the room can agree with me, the shrines this time around are much more fun to do. There's a lot more variety, in my opinion, in terms of it. Because it felt like in Breath of the Wild, there was like a type of shrine. There was like 5 or 10 different types. This time around, it feels a lot more well thought out, specific. There was a shrine I did where I couldn't see in the dark, and I had to do a combat trial, so I had none of my gear, and I had to grab a bunch of pre-made gear and then sneak around and fight these ancient beings in the dark. That was really fun. There was one where I had to paraglide a certain way through certain areas and use Ascend to get beyond it. There's a lava one. There's all different types, and I'm sure you're seeing a montage of all the different shrines I've been to and solved on screen right now. As of this moment, I have about 275 Korok seeds, and I've solved about 30 shrines. So I still have a long way to go, but I'm trying to do this thing where as I'm progressing through the game, I'm making a benchmark of, okay, I found a shrine here. Now, how many Korok seeds can I find surrounding? And then move on to the next shrine, and then do that again and again until I've theoretically mapped out the whole map. So in Tears of the Kingdom, one of the more important elements in the game is spelunking. You go into caves, and while you're in these caves, more often than not, you might find a shrine. You might find a new way to find a Korok, or find some chests, find some enemies to fight. But the thing you most always will find in caves proper are these things called bubble frogs. And these bubble frogs are these big blue ethereal looking frogs that are kind of running around all over the ceiling or the sides of the wall, and you have to shoot them, and when you shoot them, they will drop something called a bloopy. It looks like a little blue rabbit, And as it gets knocked down, it panics and runs away. And when it runs away, it will leave behind a bubble gem. You will take these bubble gems and you will turn them into a vendor, and that vendor will give you rewards depending on how many of these bubble gems you've collected. That is a completion criteria because there are suits and items attached to acquiring all of them. At this time, I don't know the top of my head about how many there are. I want to say there's somewhere between 35 to 50 of them. I could be wrong. Obviously, again, I'm trying to remain as amorphous as possible with this. But that's a collectible that you have to worry about. A nice little fun tool is if you are approaching a cave or you don't know if a cave is nearby, you might see a blue pea running around in the wild, and if you shoot him or it will explode rupees everywhere, and then it will run away to where the cave is. So all you have to do is follow the blue pea, and you'll know there's a cave there, which will more or less likely have a bubble frog. Costumes have made a big return here in the game, and these costumes are very important if you want to deal with certain atmospheres. I'm surprised at the lack of new costumes because almost every costume I've encountered thus far has not been new. It has been an amiibo costume set or one from the previous game, which makes sense. I hope that there are more. I've heard there's roughly between 60 to 65 new costume sets and pieces, and I hope there's some really cool new ones. I've been trying to keep myself relatively spoiler-free as I've been playing this game, but let me tell you, something that's been fun to do for me personally, and I don't recommend it for everyone. I haven't been spoiled yet, luckily. I've been using the YouTube algorithm to determine my journey. So what that means is I will search maybe a certain shrine or Korok location, and then it'll be like, hey, did you know about horses? And I'll click on it and go, oh, there are horses in Tears of the Kingdom, and here's how you get the special ones. Or, hey, there's a certain item that's in the game you should go check out. Nothing has been spoiled for me story-wise, but that's been kind of my fun, indirect game that I've created for myself, is just recognizing and understanding this game is massive as hell. It's so big. It's so big that I didn't even tell you guys about the depths, the underground area that's attached to every shrine. There's a whole underground area that's dark, and you can't see anything, and you have to find these light routes to activate them, and each light route is attached to a shrine, so as long as you follow your own map underground to where the shrine you solved was, you can find a light route and bring light to all around you. And there's this thing called gloom, which everyone poisons you with, and you lose HP temporarily. But like, there's so much here, you guys. I didn't talk about the Gleeok dragons. The regular dragons are back. The Great Fairy Quest, which is phenomenal if you want to upgrade your gear again. That took a while. I did that. There's 4 separate like Great Fairy quests you have to do. They're all tied to this band who wants to perform for the Great Fairies. You have to map them all together. There's a lot. I said this was my first 100 hours impressions, and the reality is, while that is true, I haven't done in 100 hours. That's the true problem, is that trying to complete this game the way that I've been doing it, I almost need to come up with my own treasure map and my own way to do it. And let me tell you, I've been putting in the time. I've been staying up, no joke, like doing these long days, 18 hours a day almost, trying to do as much as I can. And I feel like an idiot because I'm not going as fast as I would like. And that's why I'm making this video, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed my first 100 hours of Tears of the Kingdom. Thank you for watching. Next week, I have a video on a brand new game. It's not Tears of the Kingdom, but I think one that you will enjoy. And the week after that is Summer Games Fest. Thanks for watching. Be sure to follow me on all socials to keep me sane as I tweet about my Tears of the Kingdom problems. Love your faces. See you all soon. Bye-bye.